Good morning, Sunday morning. And I am here to just talk a little bit about how to optimize your communication with your remote team. I've been working with a remote team for quite a long time, over many years. And so I thought I would share with you two of my best tools, most effective tools for being able to really help you to overcome some of the frustrations of having a remote team, having a team that's working different hours than you, all of those kinds of things. So welcome if you're live, and if you're watching the recording, I would love to know how you're going with working with your remote team, and also what are the top tips that you have for really being able to keep connected and communicating. And I'm not just talking about using Zoom or Yammer or something like that, but really going to a whole other level. So I'm just going to check my stream. And multi-streaming again this morning, so I'm just going to take a moment. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that people are really working hard. They're really focused on communicating with their teams and their team members, which is fantastic. But sometimes things are getting a little bit lost in translation. But the other thing is that often what's happening now, because we're going through this kind of set of different conditions, is that we've got people who are working in different, almost time zones, if you like. We've got different shifts. We've got some people are in the office, some people are not in the office. We've got people who are used to working with their teams in their vicinity. Now their team is dispersed and maybe working from home, or there's a combination of things. And so when you want to communicate, and this is more, I guess, around actual tasks, so not the general, staying connected with your team and that sort of thing, which I think people are doing really well, but making sure that when they're talking about tasks and projects and things like that, that the communication has clarity and that the message actually lands. So I'm sort of hearing from people that they feel like they've done a really good job of communicating with their people, and yet there's something missing. There's confusion, or people have done a task that you've assigned to them, but it didn't really, they didn't deliver what you were expecting or what you were hoping for. And it comes down to how the communication is operating. And it's not that you're not trying, and it's not that they're not trying. It's just that there's something missing. So I've got a team that's dispersed around the world, and so we're used to working across time zones. We're used to not being in the same office. Some of those people I've never actually met face to face. So we've had to really build up ways of communicating that allow us to get the job done in the best possible way. So I wanted to share with you two of the tools that I use to really facilitate that process. Now, the first one is that I use, because I'm always on the go, and I'm often, or not as much at the moment because I'm not traveling, but often I'm running, moving from meetings to coaching to planning to designing, training to working with groups online. And when you add in the travel component or the moving between different locations, that I'm always on the move, and I don't have great big chunks of time where I sit down at my computer and I can kind of type out long emails and things like that. So I use voice recording to deliver a lot of the instructions to my team and to let them know what I'm thinking and what's coming up and what I need them to be aware of. And so I use a tool called Voxer. Voxer, so Voxer.com. And what I like about Voxer is that I can voice record, I can film, I can deliver it in lots of different ways. So I can then email the link to that. I can message it, I can share it with multiple people. There's lots of things that I can do with it to actually both deliver the communication, but also because I'm talking to my team, they get it, straight from me. I haven't had to sit down and write something, so I can do it really quickly. But then the other thing is that it's not interrupting them. Like it delivers, but it's not the same as ringing them. So I haven't actually interrupted their thinking process. So they will get to that recording, that Voxer, when it suits them, and they know that that's how we work. If if it's an urgent, then I will actually put urgent in the title. Otherwise, they just do it as not a part of their normal process. So I'm giving them the information. It's me talking to them, and they're able to access it whenever it suits them. And so it's good for their workflow as well. Let me just check my stream, which is all good. Okay, so Voxer for me is a really great way of me being able to communicate by voice really quickly, and everyone can access it. So I can send it to one person, I can send it to the whole team, and they know exactly what they need to do with that. It's an app on my phone, so I've got it wherever I am. That's the other thing. So that's the first tool that I use. And there are lots of similar ones. So you don't have to use Voxer, but just the idea of being able to not having to type, which takes a bit longer, but to just voice record something and deliver it to your team. And it's not a lost in translation because you're not having to think, how will I write this down? It's actually just you speaking. So that's the first tool that I use. And I find it really, really effective, and they love it because they can hear it, but then they can go back and actually listen to it again if they need to as they're actually working on the task. Now, the second tool that I wanted to share with you, and I'll give you an example. So I wanted to change the way that some of our reporting works on some of our analytics. And it's more about me being able to see a visual representation of what I want the reports to look like, so I can see the trends. And if I want to drill into something and get details, I can, but I really want to get that holistic picture. And how do you describe that to someone when you've got a picture in your mind and you want them to build it? And so I used a couple of things here. I use Loom a lot because Loom is a great way of actually recording your screen and your voice to deliver, instructions and how-tos and all of that sort of thing. So I highly recommend Loom, or again, something that does exactly the same thing, because you can, it's a great way of being able to teach people, how to use a system, how to follow a process, those sorts of things, because you can just capture that whole recording of you, your voice, your screen, what you're doing, and you can take people from the beginning of a process right through to the end. And from that, they can not only learn the process, but they could document the process for you. So that's something that's super useful. But in this case, what I was doing is I wanted to build reports. And so I did use Loom to record it, and I actually drew it all on my iPad, which I use a lot. So again, I was able to talk through and say, this is what I want it to look like. We'll have this information and this information, and I'll see the trend, over time. And so then I was able to just deliver, that short recording. It was only a couple of minutes with a complete set of information, and they can listen to it, they can watch it, and they can see me kind of build the different aspects of the report. So now my team member can go away and actually build that report for me, even though they're in a different time zone, on the other side of the world. That can happen. So what I guess I want you to think about is, where is your communication, your messaging not quite landing? And what can you do to kind of upgrade the way that you're delivering your information, so that it's not just about Zoom calls and it's not just about emails? What can you do that will enhance your communication? And also, I think the other aspect that I like about this is it's not interruptive. You don't have to actually insert yourself and stop them doing what they were doing if they happen to be in the same time zone by a call or a Zoom meeting. You're actually conveying the information, and they're getting the full, extent of it from you, but you're not having to interrupt them to do it. So they can continue to do their work, and then when they're ready, they pick up your messaging and they run with it. And anyway, we find it super effective. So really think about what else can you do that is it's efficient for you, it's effective for both of you, and it enables you to get better outcomes because your communication that kicks off a process or a task is actually more effective in the first place. So the outcome that you get is going to be, a higher quality and closer, much closer to what it is that you were aiming at in the first place. So I hope that helps. As I said, the two resources I use are Voxer and Loom, but there's lots of different apps and software that do exactly the same thing. So pick what works for you. Very low cost, free often. So, really readily available. And in terms of the impact that it will make on the way that you and your different team members work in your different locations, in your different time zones, it will be massive. So I would love to hear how you go with that. Have a great day.